You boys look like a weird heavy metal band.
Yes, we are a band.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you play?
Symphonic post-apocalyptic reindeer-grinding, Christ-abusing, extreme war pagan Fennoscandic metal.
Right. Really interesting.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with your Metal Time Radio podcast, doing another top 10. This time, it's taking me a while. I don't know why, but it's taking me a while to do my top 10 all-time favorite werewolf movies. Now, I have to preface all this with, how do I distinguish a werewolf from the wolf man? So basically, obviously for those that follow horror, they already know the differences, but for those that really don't, the Wolfman is more like humanoid with some very hairy facial features, kind of like this, a little bit of fur. Teen Wolf, the Wolfman, 2010, Del Toro, and then the werewolf, of course, is more wolf than man, and basically like this. If I can show a picture there. That is what I would deem a werewolf. And when it comes to werewolf movies, I'm very, very, very picky. Like, if there's one thing that I'm kind of elitist about, or pretentious, or gatekeeping about, is werewolf movies, because it's my favorite genre in terms of like the creature, favorite fantasy horror creature, and my select of movies that I enjoy in this genre is very, very minimal. Obviously, when we talk about the Wolfman, there are a couple of films, like I mentioned before, Del Toro's Wolfman was very good, and Wolf with Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer was excellent as well. But those are really Wolfman films and not werewolf films. So I do have some runners up to this, and they basically, while they could fit into like a top 15, really, if I wanted to do that, I wanted to kind of keep it to a top 10. But I do have 5 other films that I would consider like really good werewolf films, but they are kind of left out for various reasons. The first one up is Wolf Hollow. It's a pretty more newer werewolf film, which features Felissa Rose in there, Lynn Lowry from the Crazies and stuff like that. So it's a very good, it's definitely low budget. There was the kind of funnier thing about it is some of the suits they have aren't, they're not like all regular. Like, so you have like 3 or 4 different suits that's being worn, but they're all kind of different. They're not the same, which is really weird. I don't know if they just tried to do that on purpose or if they ran out of budget, but like, one of them looks really good, and then the rest of them look pretty terrible. But as a film, it's fun. It's got a good premise, and Felice is always great whenever she's in a film, and so is Lynn is like hysterical in this. But yeah, that's one of the runners up there with that. Another one is actually a Wes Craven film called Cursed, and it's a pretty decent film. Obviously, it goes more for the mainstream, but there's some cool shit about it. It's got some good gore effects, some pretty good comedy in there. And I think it's Christina Ricci, and I forget who the gentleman is that did the Network and stuff like that. Jesse Eisenberg. So it's kind of like one of their earlier films for them. Ricci's been around for a while, but you get my point. It's a decent film, but not something I would always consider a top 10. The next one up I have is Wolfen. Now, fantastic film. It actually came out around the same time as The Howling and American Wolf in London. It was like a big time around that year when a lot of werewolf movies were coming out. This one, though, gets held back because it's not particularly a werewolf. It's more of a wolf. And obviously, I'm not going to go into a lot of spoilers, but the reality is that it's not your traditional werewolf film, but it's fucking amazing if you've never seen it. Another one is, this is actually, should have had the poster for Rise of the Lycans, but the Underworld series, especially the first 3 films, very good. But the only reason why it really doesn't make the top 10 is because it really balances up between vampires and werewolves and the war within with that. So that's really the only reason why it didn't make my top 10. And then finally, one of my all-time favorite films, Brotherhood of the Wolf. Not really going to give any spoilers here, but I will say that it's one of these films that doesn't necessarily have a werewolf, but the whole idea and the plot and the premise is all based around the Beast of Gavadon, which was at the time considered to be a werewolf, and it kind of plays off of that a little bit with the early part of the film and how it unravels with the story and whatnot. But now you're going to see a film in my top 10 that kind of has the same issue in terms of not really being a werewolf film, but I'm going to explain why that one's in my top 10 and this one is not. This one, Brotherhood, is basically more action, martial arts, romance. You do have a creature in there, but it's not a werewolf, but we are led to believe that it is. Still check it out if you have not watched. Fantastic film. Fantastic. So what I will do when I go into my top 10 here, I'm going to go ahead and just give you the breakdown of the movie of the year, director, cast as usual, plot, and then if I found any kind of like interesting tidbits of information about the film, I'll share that with you, and then I'll play a trailer just to give you a morsel of what that movie is about. At number 10, Howling 5: The Rebirth. Now, obviously the picture there with the wolf is kind of cheesy, but what makes this film work, and before I get into that, let me give you the breakdown. This is a 1989 film, the 5th in the series, of course, directed by Neil Sundstrom. Cast consists of Phil Davis, Victoria Caitlin, and Elizabeth Shee. Plot is, when a group of people from different walks of life converge in a Hungarian castle situated in Budapest, which has been sealed for 500 years, they bring with them a werewolf which slowly begins to cut their numbers down. The movie is the Howling a la Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. And so the tidbit that they gave you is it's a murder mystery a lot, and it is kind of good because there's the whole idea of you got this group of people who are trying to figure out who's killing who, and they're figuring out about the lore of the castle, and it's kind of funny because they get there, they're staying there, and then all of a sudden this big snowstorm hits. So what drives this film the best for me, one, at least a werewolf is kind of close to what the Howling was. It's not quite there, but it's close in terms, and what they do is you don't really see it all that well, but because there's a lot of dark shadows in the castles, the atmosphere with the weather, you never really see the werewolf like you do in the first film. But that's what kind of makes it work with the atmosphere and the dread, and it's just very creepy style with the castle and everything. So, but it is like a murder mystery. So you're trying to figure out who the werewolf is, and maybe some people figured it out fast. I didn't, but I thought it was kind of cool either way. I thought it was a great premise for a film. So let's take a look at the trailer for Howling 5.
Behind these walls lurks a terrible secret.
I think this castle does have a past, and it's a past that's been deliberately covered up.
A secret that has been silenced for centuries.
So you're convinced its lack of history is deliberate?
To even speak of it was punishable by death.
A secret that has claimed the lives of generations.
Some said suicide, some said murder.
Now, 500 years later, these doors will open once more.
You will be the first people to step inside the castle for 5 centuries.
And before this night is over,
You were not invited to this castle by chance.
someone will be intrigued
About 1,000 years ago in Hungary, packs of savage wolves actually terrorized this area.
Someone will be deceived.
What if she finds out?
She won't.
Someone will be tantalized. And all will be terrorized.
Whatever it is, it has human intelligence.
If it lives, you will be damned forever.
The Howling returns with all its shocking power. Like The Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th series, The Howling Saga continues to deliver top video rental.
That was kind of funny because I just now recognize one dude in there that I didn't really place before, and I think he was from is it Animal House? And then I think he was also in Twisted Sisters. We're not going to take a video. I just recognize him, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know his name, so maybe I already mentioned it. You guys can, clear that up for me in the comments if you want. But I just recognized him now. That's kind of funny there. But so that was number 10. At number 9, I can actually give credit to Kevin Lambert from D Entertainment Headquarters for introducing me, at least acknowledging or letting me know about this film before it was released. And that is 2022's Viking Wolf. While it's kind of like hit or miss with people, I thought this was actually a very good hit because, again, this one kind of deals with almost like a wolfen type thing where you do have a wolf. It's more like four-legged. There's a couple of versions of a werewolf. One's two-legged bipedal. The other one is like the four, like Hound of Hell, which, I'll explain down the road. And this one is sort of like the four, like, or like Twilight, if you want to think about a wolf like that. But the gore effects are great. It's a lot of fun. It's directed by Stig Svensson. I did do a review on this if you want to go back and check the videos. Cast is Liv Moynes, Ellie, Rihanna Muller, Osborne, and Vidor Magnuson. Plot is 17-year-old Thale has just moved to a small town after her mother got a new job at a local police station. After a student is brutally killed at a party Thale attends, she becomes a key witness. Was the killer an animal? A wolf? The only really bit of tidbit I can find that was somewhat interesting about the film is that there's portions of the dialogue during the autopsies in this film where they directly borrow from Jaws. I didn't pick up on it right away, so when I go back to review it, actually own this, I have to get it on Blu-ray. But apparently that's some direct dialogue taken from the Jaws when they were doing the autopsy of Christie in that film. So yeah, let's give it a whirl for our number 9 here with Viking Wolf.
Såg du vad det var? Jag vet inte.
De tror de har en ulv som har angrepet og tatt livet av en lokal ungdom.
Ulv dreper ikke mennesker.
Jeg har jaktet dette hele mitt voksne liv. En varg. En ulv. En varulv. Tro meg når jeg ser at ni har med et blodtørstigt odjur att göra som måste stoppas för smitten brer om sig. Blodslinjen måste kapas.
Fy faen, sjekk ut her, folkens. Har du rabies, eller hva?
Jag vet inte vad du tror att du håller på med här. En ung flicka är dräpt. Och du kommer hit och pratar om varulvar och vandrarhistorier.
Varulven ni har gående lös här i Nybo. Det är ingen vandrarhistorie.
All right, there you go. Number 9, Viking Wolf. Now we're at number 8, and this is the one I was telling you about. not technically a werewolf film, but I will explain why it's here. It is The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Released 2020, directed by Jim Cummings. Cast consists of Jim Cummings, Ricky Lindham, and Robert Forst, who actually passed away not too long before the film was done and released. Plot is terror grips a small mountain town as bodies are discovered after each full moon. Losing sleep, raising a teenage daughter, and caring for his ailing father, Officer Marshall struggles to remind himself there's no such thing as werewolves. Did not find any kind of like special tidbits of information on the film. But the thing about why this makes my list, okay, it's a very interesting premise. It's very original. Now, why I think Jim Cummings kind of overacted in this, some people really like his performance in this. I thought it was kind of overacting personally, but it's not him so much that drives the film. It's the story. And yes, you see a werewolf, but looks can be deceiving. And so, I think back to an episode of Creepshow and Shudder when they were doing the little clip series, right? If you watch that, there's a particular one about Nazi werewolves. And, and so that's just not the one I was trying. I was thinking actually of when Kevin Lemmer and I reviewed a movie sometime back where they were using hallucinogens. So either way, it's deceitful in this film about how the werewolf even exists. But the gore effects are amazing. The wolf effects are amazing. And if you haven't seen it, please do. The ending is amazing, and it caught me off guard. It's one of those times like, you say to yourself, man, I really wish there was a werewolf, but I really like the idea that there's not. And when you find out why, you'll understand. Just a totally original piece of work. And it definitely deserves to be in here because, like I said, the wolf that is in there looks legit and it's cool shit. So let's give the trailer a look for The Wolf of Snow Hollow. With the Netflix. Oops. Wrong one. Sorry about that, guys.
We have every reason to believe that this monster will show up again tonight.
I'm John, I'm an alcoholic. I've been in the program now for 6 years, sober for 3.
This is scary. It's new. I never saw a body like that.
There's gonna be a lot of late nights and overtime because of the brutal murder that happened in town, and I didn't want to set up expectations that I can't keep.
Our expectations of you are very low.
Spans of the bites are gigantic, same as the distance of the paw prints.
It's a wolf, or maybe it's a werewolf.
No, let me just make this perfectly clear. There is no such thing as werewolves. Our killer is a guy, and I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna kill, and we're gonna bring him to justice.
We have every reason to believe that this monster will show up again tonight. I won't ask you to pray with me because of the goddamn lawyers.
Where were you? Where were you?
John!
None of you talk to me at once, okay? They're saying it's a wolf. No, it's a man. When do I get to be right about something? Do your job! Do your job! I am begging you!
You want to be sheriff? How about we start acting like one?
All right. There you have it. The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Coming in at number 7. I believe this was originally made as a TV film, but it is 1993's Full Eclipse. Directed by Anthony Hickox. This cast consists of Mario Van Peebles, Patsy Kensit, Bruce Payne, and Paula Marshall. Plot is the LA Police Department, I'm fucking struggling today, man, have a special team of officers with a talent for reducing big time crime. The team leader has an excellent track record for crime reduction in other big cities, but his methods are unconventional, and so is he. He's a werewolf. A little bit of interesting notes about this particular film is that the director chose Van Peebles and he didn't want anyone else. He just wanted Mario to be the guy in this, to be the lead. The other thing is, I think in Mortal Kombat for Nightwolf, I actually listed his skill set as Garou, which is French for werewolf. And Garou is also the last name of Bruce Payne's character in this. Yeah, it's an interesting film. It's, you basically take a bunch of cops and, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to check it out. But here is the trailer for Full Eclipse.
To clean up the urban jungle takes a rare breed of man. Let's go, man. Max Dyer is a cop who believes in the survival of the fittest. And when you're the best, everybody wants you on their side.
Everybody, Max Dyer.
Hi, Max. Welcome to the cause.
The Pack are an elite squad chosen for their special skills.
You all have one thing in common. You're warriors. But it goes deeper. You also wanted to strike back at the evil decay out there.
Are we talking like some sort of pseudo Charlie Bronson vigilante shit?
We call it justice.
Join us. Be part of the Pack, Max.
But the Pack holds dark secrets. When the beast is brought out in land, the consequences must be paid.
You want to see something really scary? You're a motherfucking werewolf.
Full Eclipse. Starring Mario Van Peebles, Patsy Kensit, and Bruce Payne. Full Eclipse.
There you go. One interesting thing about that film is if you see in the trailer, there's some points where they get claws that come out of their wrists or fists, right? And so it's kind of interesting because that's almost like a precursor to Wolverine, at least in terms of the films that we see down the line. Like there is a movie that Hugh Jackman did, and it's a Wolverine film. I didn't really like it. It wasn't Origin, but it was the one after where he's in Japan and he doesn't have the adamantine, the steel armor, his claws. It's just his bone, and that kind of reminds me of that, how they kind of get these skills. So it's interesting how that works out with that film. It's very underrated. Not a lot of people knew about it. I don't think even Samurai knew about it when I talked to him a little bit about it some time back, but very underrated flick, and should definitely check it out. Totally worth it. All right. Number 6 from 2000. Ginger Snaps. Yes. Starring, it's 2000, directed by John Fawcett. Cast consists of Emily Perkins, Catherine Isabel, and Chris Lemche. Plot is becoming a woman analogous. I don't know what the hell that means. In some deep psychological way, to become a werewolf, Ginger is 15, edgy, tough, and with her younger sister into staging and photographing scenes of death. They've made a pact about dying together. In early October, on the night she has her first period, which is also the night of a full moon, a werewolf bites Ginger. Within a few days, some serious changes happen to her body and her temperament. Her sister Bridget, 15, tries to find a cure with the help of Sam, a local doper. As Bridget races against the clock, Halloween and another full moon approach, Ginger gets scarier, and it isn't just local dogs that begin to die. So I remember seeing this film. I believe it was actually Sci-Fi Channel that actually played it first. There's another film in my top 10 that also had that happen, which I'll talk about later. But so I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I was like, "This is really good." Like, I didn't even really know. I knew who Mimi Rogers was, who plays the mother. But some cool tidbits about the film is Fawcett refused to use CGI in the film, instead opted for prosthetics and makeup. Big key there. CGI tends to ruin a lot of films, even if it's a small portion, like with Full Eclipse and another film in this series that I'll talk about. There's a little bit of CGI used, and it's not very good. Both Isabel and Perkins, this is the most interesting, auditioned on the same day. Apparently, initially, the director had a hard time finding the two girls that he wanted to do the roles, and he was running out of time. But then Isabel and Perkins shows up, and they both win the auditions on the same day. But that's not the only connection these two have, which is interesting. They were both born at the same hospital. They went to the same preschool, elementary, and private schools, and they both worked at the same talent agency. So go figure. The role of Ginger was initially offered to Sarah Polley and Natasha Lyonne, but both turned it down. Of course, I mentioned about in the plot, you can understand it. The way that the film's directed, both writing and the direction of it, was it kind of deals with womanhood and becoming a woman with menstruation and all that stuff. So that all plays a factor a little bit, because we see some of Catherine's sexuality come out as she gets more confident after the bite. You know, her temperament changes and she becomes a little more sexual and has a sexual appetite. And of course, it isn't just sex. You know, you get the drift, right? Now, here's the other thing. For the character of Bridget at the time, think about this. Kate Beckinsale and Zooey Deschanel were both considered for that role. So it's kind of interesting that two names that became much bigger than Emily going forward just didn't get the role or passed on it, one of the two. But yeah, let's check out the trailer for Ginger Snaps.
Out by 16 or dead in the scene, but together forever. Together forever.
I don't want you leaving the house. The news says there's still some wild animal on the loose.
Let's get out of here.
Ginger! Ginger!
Looked like a lycanthrope to me.
Think you see werewolves a lot?
Why, do you? Stop it! Wait a second. Drop this. On my truck.
What happened to you?
Ginger Fitzgerald rocked my world. Could be anything, but here I am thinking, lycanthrope.
The police want to talk to you. Something about a fight with the missing girl? What?
Wicked.
There you go. Ginger Snaps from 2000. This actually was the movie that obviously made me a fan of Catherine Isabel. She went on to do some other films, I think Freddy vs. Jason and a few others. But great actress. great screen presence. Very good actress. I enjoy everything she's in. Even now, she does still does a lot of horror, which is cool, and appreciative of that. Let's see. We are moving to number 5. And we're going to go back to 1985 with Silver Bullet. Directed by Daniel Atias, cast consists of Gary Busey, Everett McGill, and Corey Haim. Plot is the small town of Tarker's Mills was a place that was very peaceful where nothing extraordinary ever happened until one night when murders began. The townspeople believe it's some maniacal killer on the loose whom they intend to hunt down. Marty, a young handicapped boy, believes the killer is no man at all but a werewolf. After a run-in with the werewolf, Marty and his sister Jane hunt all over town for the man who is the werewolf. Obviously, this is based off a Stephen King short story called Cycle the Werewolf, which I did have on a graphic novel somewhere. I don't know where I put it, but I do have it. De Laurentiis was very unhappy with the werewolf used in the film, with both how it looked and moved. This will kind of maybe be brought up later because Laurentiis was interested in another film, but never actually ended up doing anything with it. It went to somebody else. But I think Laurentiis was kind of like hoping this would be more like an American Wolf in London or Howling type of werewolf. Personally, I didn't think it was that bad. It's another one of these films where you don't necessarily need to see the werewolf to have enjoyment out of the film. In fact, this is probably one of the films where it's mostly driven by the characters themselves. It was always more about Marty, and Gary Busey is fantastic in this. Like, he always plays the crazy guy. In this case, the crazy uncle, Red, and a lot of it was improvised on his part. Like, I've heard so many things about Busey, like later in life, in terms of his real life persona, like just not totally being there. I don't know if it's just a Hollywood thing or whatever, but on screen, man, he plays some of the craziest, fucking coolest characters you'll ever see. Point Break, whatever, or Under Siege 2 and stuff like that, dude. The guy just does it well. Oddly enough, T.S., the director, this is the only film he ever directed. He did do some TV stuff, but he never did another film. Don't know why. Marty and Jane, this is the sister, given their silver medallion cross to her uncle to get made into a subtle reference to the story of the Beast of Gavadon. Probably the most famous werewolf story in history and the origin of the silver bullet myth. Now, here's an interesting thing. Busey playing the Uncle Red, the original person considered for the role was John Candy. And I try to think, because Candy was such a comedian, I just don't know if he pulls it off as good as Busey can. And I know it's kind of like hindsight is 2020 here, but you look at John Candy's like Uncle Buck. Like, that's probably the only way I would look at him, even though that was done like 2 or 3 years later after this. I'm not sure if I could see Candy in like a horror role. Busey was able to kind of do his comedy and it still fit with the terrifying moments that are in the film. Now, here's another cool thing, right? So Jane was initially to be casted as, or played by Jennifer Connelly, but because Connelly was in Italy shooting Phenomenon with Dario Argento, she had to like pass on the role, which I don't know. I think Connelly would have just smoked the shit out of this fucking role because she's a very good actress altogether. But even back then, she was really, really good. And interesting enough, I didn't even know it till I started looking some of this research up. I have a game called Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood, and there's actually 2 references to this film in there. One is the Tarker's Mill, probably location, as well as the character wearing the one eye, the patch on one eye. So let's give it a whirl for the trailer for Silver Bullet 1985.
I gotta talk to you.
You won't let go of it, will you?
I saw what I saw.
Psychotics are more active when the
moon is full. And this guy's a psycho. When they catch him, you're gonna find out he's just as human as you and me. You have got to get this idea out of your head. There are no such things as werewolves.
The Bible tells us to fear the terror of the beast.
I am scared to death.
What are we gonna do? I think I know. I want you to turn this into a silver bullet.
Tech, you're gonna shoot a 44 bullet at anyway. Ain't out of silver.
How about a werewolf?
The moon is full. You better watch it.
I think he's going to come after me.
Are you ready?
You see how all things serve the will and the mind of God. You see? You meddling little...
Help me, please! He's out there! I saw him!
And there it is, Silver Bullet. Cool thing, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy that plays the father of one of the kids that is killed does an amazing job. The emotion out of that character is very moving, and the anger. It's just one of those standout roles that you would see, and it sticks out a lot in the movie for me. But yeah, great movie all the way around. Of course, Marty's little handicap motorcycle thing that Red creates for him was awesome. Very fast, very neat, nice concept. And that moves us to number 4, which is 1996. Bad Moon, half wolf, total terror. Directed by Eric Red. Cast consists of Mario Hemingway, Michael Paré, Mason Gamble, and of course Thor the fucking dog. Plot is one man's struggle to contain the curse he hides within and his last-ditch attempt to free himself with the love of family. But when it looks as if he is losing his battle and endangering all that he holds most dear, the family dog Thor is the last hope for his family's survival and the end to his werewolf curse. It's interesting about this. I brought it up earlier. Most of what you see in this with the werewolf is animatronics and a suit. Like, it looks good practical effects. But there is a scene where you see CGI being used, and like most fans, myself, I know Sam Roy feels this way, and actually the director Eric Red feels the same way. He hates it. Why he ended up going with it, I don't know. Probably just at the time he thought it was the best move. But there's just that stupid CGI moment where it's changing. You're just like, no, why'd you do that? Doesn't ruin the movie at all for me. It's a lot of fun. It's creepy as fuck. Michael Paré is amazing in this. Interestingly enough, the role of Ted, played by Paré, was actually pursued by Michael Biehn and Robert Patrick, who were both interested in it, but Red went with Paré because he felt that he was like really great to work with, along with other people he's worked with, like Roy Scheider and Famke Janssen. So he had high respect and praise for Michael Paré in this role and as an actor. Now the reverse is for Mario Hemingway. Red felt that her performance, as he would state, he goes on to say that she was intimidated by Paré because he was there to give a great performance and she was there for a paycheck. I can believe that. She is like the weakest of the movie itself. unfortunately, she's actually not a bad actress. But I don't even know if she even did any horror before this or not. I can't remember. But it did come off just like her heart wasn't in it or something. But like, I'm kind of like, why are you taking the job? I guess maybe it is just a paycheck at that point. But I'm sure Eric Red was kind of hoping that because of her name would kind of draw more people to see it. I remember I got recent theater. I didn't go see it in the theaters, but I ended up seeing it on the cable when it came out a few years later and fell in love with it. Thought it was amazing. Generally great werewolf film and creepy as fuck. Good gore effects. Interestingly enough, the beginning of the film is very reminiscent of my number 3 pick. And Thor, man, the dog, fantastic. There's a moment where Thor has to go be taken to the pound, and everybody I know that I've talked to finds that to be her sad moments. Everyone gets upset that Thor has to go to the pound because they're worried that he's attacking everybody and whatnot. So let's give a look to Bad Moon.
A house on the edge of the woods.
Out here it's safe and peaceful.
A family alone.
Mom?
Yes, sweetheart?
Can you leave the door open a crack?
A favorite uncle who needed their help.
Things haven't been going so good for me since I got back to this.
You could come stay with us.
But when they invited him in,
Think I better keep my eye on you.
they let in something they could never imagine or ever escape.
What's wrong with you?
Bad Moon. It doesn't have to be Halloween to be this scary.
There you go. Bad Moon, 1996. All right, guys, getting down to the top 3 here. Should not really be surprising what these films will be, but let's roll on anyway, as number 3 is 2002's Dog Soldiers. Yep. Sci-Fi Century and I did a discussion or review on this film not too long ago on his channel. Directed by Neil Marshall, who would go on to do stuff like The Descent. Cast consists of Sean Pertwee, amazing actor, Kevin McKidd, and Emma Cleesby. Plot is, a British squad is sent on a training mission in the Highlands of Scotland against Special Operations Squad. Ignoring the childish campfire stories heard about the area, they continue with their mission and come across the bloody remains of the Special Ops Squad. And a fierce howling is pitching the night sky. With 2 mortally wounded men, they make an escape, running into a zoologist by the name of Megan, who knows exactly what hunts them. What began as what they thought was a training mission turns into a battle for their lives against the most unlikely enemies they would have ever expected, werewolves. Some interesting stuff about this, of course. The scene where Cooper punches Wells, which is played by Pertwee and McKidd, respectively, actually happened. Like, the punch was real, and Pertwee didn't feel it because he was really drunk. And you can, like, I remember saying to myself, I wasn't sure at the time when I was watching this film if Sean was actually drunk, because if he was faking it, that was like the best way of faking being drunk I've ever seen. But clearly, he told Marshall, he said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drink a couple of glasses of alcohol and just to act so I can act drunk. And Neil says, yeah, he drank a lot more than 2 glasses, but funniest fucking thing. And the fact that Sean was able to even remember his lines and everything while doing it, amazing. Marshall chose dancers, not stuntmen, to play the werewolves because he felt like they had a grace and elegance about their movements while they were going through the forest. So that's kind of a cool thing there. You don't have stuntmen, you just have actual dancers running around outside and doing all that kind of stuff. Interesting again, because Pertwee also was in the movie Event Horizon. The corpses that you see in the basement were kind of like leftover from that movie set. So that's kind of cool. Just a little connection there with that. Very little CGI was used in this. Most of it was animatronics, as well as dancers probably on the stilts, like to give them the higher look in terms of how tall they were. Now here's an interesting thing too is I'm not sure what character he was supposed to play, but Simon Pegg was offered a part in this film, but he had to turn it down because he was busy going to be doing Shaun of the Dead. So that's kind of cool. I wish Simon could have been in this film. That would have made it really, really, really interesting, I think. The sequel, this is something people have always been talking about, like this film needs a sequel. I disagree, but this scenario that was presented, like this is apparently a real scenario. The sequel that was originally set up after this was to take place in a mental asylum where Cooper was to be sent. So Cooper survives, spoiler alert, and he's apparently sent to this asylum because they all think he's crazy. But what was supposed to happen is also the camper at the beginning. This is a similar scene to what we saw in Bad Moon, which very interesting, right? But the camper that survived was supposed to be also in the asylum, and apparently he's the one that was infecting other patients and crew inside the mental institution. So that would have led Cooper to fight a whole new pack of wolves if that sequel would have happened. Marshall wanted a theatrical release for this, but apparently the company that owned the rights sold it to the Sci-Fi Channel in the US. So that's why I got that release, and that's how I saw it. Like I remember saying to myself at the time, this film is too good to be on Sci-Fi Channel. That's why I was so impressed about it. And same with Ginger Snaps. I thought both were really, really great films that I had seen on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it's like these deserve like theatrical releases. I don't know why they never were, but that was part of the reason, is that whoever was handling the movie itself sold it to the Sci-Fi Channel. But good on Sci-Fi, man. They said, "Oh, this is a great film. We need to snatch this up," you know. Now, hold on to your hats with this last bit of information. The guy who plays McKidd, I forget his fucking name all of a sudden. Did I write it up here? Oh, Kevin McKidd, that's his character. He plays Cooper, sorry. So McKidd, who's playing Cooper, was originally supposed to be played by Jason fucking Statham. But you want to know why he didn't do it, right? Because Jason had to go do Ghost of fucking Mars, that shitty fucking movie. He passed up Dog Soldiers for Ghost of fucking Mars. Ugh, Jason, that would have been a killer role. I mean, the kid did great, obviously, but Jason Statham did like early. Oh my god, that would have been fun as fuck. I would have enjoyed the shit out of that. All right. Well, here's a taste of Dog Soldiers. And usually I would show people the international trailer, which is on my original DVD, because it's a lot of fun. I just like how they pop up stuff on there, compare it to Jaws and Aliens. But I just went with the regular trailer here just because it's a little bit more detailed. But here we go.
Those things out there are real. If they're real, what else is real? You may never get another night's sleep as long as you live.
Now, as of this moment, as far as we're concerned, we are 50k behind enemy lines. Now, expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you.
Sean!
Every year, more and more people come through here. Every once in a while, they don't come back. Captain?
You've got to get me out of here.
Looks like they got hit hard and fast. Every magazine is full.
From here on in, the exercise is over.
Exactly what is it we're fighting against?
Lycanthropes.
That's werewolves to you and me.
You came here because of them, right?
This was supposed to be a routine training exercise, and that's all.
The trick to survival lies not in running and hiding.
Salvage whatever weapons you can find and stand to.
Shut down the generator.
Why would they do that?
Because they can see in the dark.
And you're afraid of it.
There was only supposed to be one! He tore them to pieces in front of my eyes!
Honestly, what are our chances?
So, if little Red Riding Hood should show up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I expect you to chin the bitch.
You're bloody loving this, aren't you?
Terry, while you're at it, stick the kettle on. Could all do with a brew.
All right. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this film a lot. Spoon, the guy that plays Spoon, steals the fucking movie outside of Sean Pertwee, of course. I forget who the actor is that plays the real dickhead, the leader of the special operations group, but he was recently in the vampire film, The Voyage of the Demeter. So great actor. Just it's funny because Marshall mentioned about the dog in this film being not very good to work with because some animals just don't always do what they're trained to do. But so Marshall said this dog was more like a pain in the ass, whereas Thor was the complete professional dog doing everything he's supposed to do. thought that was kind of funny in terms of the animals being used in these films. But yeah. Check it out. All right, this movie, Dog Soldiers, has gotten so much attention over the last 10 or 15 years, which is great because for a long time in the early 2000s, after I'd seen it, people was like, have you seen Dog Soldiers? Have you seen Dog Soldiers? Like, no, I never heard of it. Fucking watch it. Now everybody's watching. Everybody knows it. In fact, I think Samurai says this is his favorite werewolf movie. It's a lot of fun. It just doesn't top my list, but it's good enough to be top 3 for sure. And so we move to number 2. Always a debate between this and my number 1. 1 and 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. And at number 2, both coming around the same year, is 1981's American Wolf in London. Directed by John Landis, cast consists of David Naughton, Jenny Agutter, and Joel Belcher. Plot is 2 American college students are on a walking tour of Britain and are attacked by a werewolf. One is killed, the other is mauled. The werewolf is killed by reverts to its human form, and the werewolf is killed but reverts to its human form, and the local townspeople are unwilling to acknowledge its existence. The surviving student begins to have nightmares of hanging on 4 feet at first, but then finds that his friend and other recent victims appear to him, demanding that he commit suicide to release them from their curse, being trapped between worlds because of their unnatural deaths. Quick note about that. In American Wolf in Paris, which the werewolves are god-awful, and it's CGI, which is part of the problem, but the design is terrible. But the movie is fun on a lot of different other levels, and I give it credit for that. People totally dismiss it. I get it. I'm not saying it's a super great film. It's not even in my runner-up, but I enjoy parts of it. Julie Delpy is lovely as usual. I forget the young guy that plays the main actor in it, but he's funny. And in a way, they kind of do. They just kind of capitalize more on the comedy aspect rather than the horror that American Wolf has. But it is because of the comedy in American Wolf that it isn't my number 1. However, transformation, legendary. One thing that's interesting about this is David Naughton was chosen for the role because of his Dr. Pepper commercial he appeared in. But when Dr. Pepper apparently watched the movie, or people from the movie, from Dr. Pepper watched the film and saw his nude scenes, they canceled his contract with Dr. Pepper, which I thought was funny. You get canceled by Dr. Pepper for just simply appearing nude in a film. What's very cool too is the crew now. The guy that did the special effects, Baker, I believe his name is, he was supposed to work on The Howling, and he actually had a concept made for The Howling, which I'll get into later. Hint, hint. but then he went to do Landis. They wanted to do the American Werewolf. So basically, his crew and him were hired by Michael Jackson to shoot the film or for the music video Thriller, which has Michael Jackson transforming into a werewolf. So that's cool. That's cool bit of information there. Landis and Baker both, they disagreed on the werewolf design. Like Baker wanted to go with the bipedal, standing on 2 feet werewolf design, but Landis wanted like this Hound of Hell, which you see in like Ginger Snaps and stuff like that, where it's more on 4 legs. Clearly, with Landis being the director, he won out apparently. It's still great. The werewolf design is amazing for what it is. Kind of reminds me a little bit, if you go back to Brotherhood of the Wolf, there's a moment where the main character is stuffing, doing taxidermy on a wolf that was killed to try to dispense of the saying they killed the trouble, like almost like Jaws got the wrong shark type thing. But the wolf in there kind of reminds me of American Werewolf in some ways because of how beefy it looked and whatnot. Now it's interesting because Landis, who had done Animal House, and I think I fucked that up with another director before that. That's my bad. But Landis had done Animal House, right? So people that went to initially see this thought it was just going to be a comedy. Now there is a lot of comedic moments in this. It's pretty kind of funny in a lot of different places, especially with Joe Belcher, who is his friend that died and is coming back to haunt him. And as the more he comes back, the more he's deteriorating and rotting and talking to him in funny jokes or whatnot. So, but people who were expecting a comedy just walked out. Like they didn't walk out because they hated it. They walked out, they were terrified of the film. Like it scared the shit out of them. Now, it's also interesting to point out here is that Baker won an Academy Award for the best makeup for this film, but he also did it for another wolf film, which is The Wolfman 2010. So he's the only one to have done it with 2 different werewolf films or wolf films. There was a question by Naughton and Griffin Dunn, who wondered why Landis never used Warren Zevon's Werewolf in London song. And that's something I always kind of pondered too. But I think, and I was actually some other song, it was Moon Shadow by, fuck, I forget that dude's name, but he changed, he found some sort of religion afterwards. And Landis wanted to use this particular song, Moon Shadow or something, and the artist wouldn't give him the rights to it. He just, because he kind of disavowed his old material because he turned over a new leaf or whatever. But and I forget, they used Bad Moon Rising at the end. But it would have been cool if he could have used Werewolf in London. I always wondered why they never went with that. Now the only other bit of information to throw out there is in New York City, there's actually a pub now called the Slaughtered Lamb. I don't know if it has any connection to the actors or Landis or anybody, but it does exist. Somebody actually used it. I don't know if they have to have some tie-in, right? Because that'd be almost like copyright. You can't just take something and then start making money off it unless they just don't give a shit. But I didn't really look up that part of it. But if somebody knows the answer to that, like that, if it's, I know they have a picture of some of the actors there, but I don't know if it's actually run by somebody who has ties to American Werewolf. But anyway, let's check out the trailer for American Werewolf in London.
Did you hear that? I heard that. What was it? Could be a lot of things. Yeah? A coyote. There aren't any coyotes in England.
I'm sorry I'm upsetting you, David, but you don't understand what's going on.
I understand, all right. You're one of the undead, and I'm a werewolf.
Yes, that's right.
David, stop! I'm going to the police. Jack was right.
Jack is dead!
Yeah, Jack is dead, and 6 people are dead. There's gonna be a full moon tonight. I'm going to the cops.
Oh, be serious, would you?
Ah!
can't let them go. Should the world know our business? It's murder then. Then murder it is.
Excuse me.
I'm a werewolf.
A werewolf.
Oh, I love this subway thing. So good.
Yes, love? A naked American man stole my balloons. What?
Let me through! Let me through!
All right. Great stuff. I don't know about that trailer though. Like it's so uninspiring. Like, you know, I don't know if that was originally the one that was originally out there, but anyway, you get kind of a good idea what's going on. But I would say this, like the kill scenes are great in this. Especially the movie theater moments, and there's a scene where a couple stand outside an apartment complex or something, and then they get attacked. So that's really good stuff too. Generally creepy, but like I said, one reason why it's not number one is because I felt like it's just far too comical for me, because you kind of lose, like, I don't know if Landis was kind of going for that usual balance of tension relief with the comedy. Like I just sometimes with movies with horror, I like total dread. I like having total fear where there's no let up. Like you're just constantly burying your nails into the fucking armrests or the chairs and stuff like that. Like comic relief is kind of what helps settle you down and then kind of builds you back up and settles you back down. Now my number one has a little bit of comedic stuff in it, but not a whole lot. Like it's all based on total dread and fear and horror, which is what I like. I just liked it, man. And here we go with number one, 1981, right along with American Werewolf, is, of course, The Howling. Yep. Best motherfucking werewolf film ever made. Directed by Joe Dante. Cast consists of Dee Wallace, Patrick McNee, and Dennis Dugan. Plot is, in a red light district, newswoman Karen White is bugged by the police investigating serial killer Eddie Quist, who has been molesting her through phone calls. After police officers find him in a peep show cabin and shoot Eddie, Karen becomes emotionally disturbed and loses her memory. Hoping to conquer her inner demons, she heads for the Colony, a secluded retreat where the creepy residents are rather too eager to make her feel at home. There also seems to be a bizarre connection between Eddie Quist and this supposedly safe haven. And when, after nights of being tormented by unearthly cries, Karen ventures into the forest and makes a terrifying discovery. Tidbits on this. As I mentioned before, Baker, who did special effects for American Werewolf, actually had the design for Howling. He was initially going to be involved with this project. But that ended up falling to Rob Bottin, who, in my opinion, actually did a way better job with the transformations. I know people are going to argue with me on this. It's fine. I don't give people a lot of hate for having American Werewolf 1. Like, I get it. For me, though, again, it comes down to the story and how it's portrayed and how much comedy versus horror is actually in the film. But if you really think about it, despite how good David Naughton and that transformation scene is in American Werewolf, Eddie Quist and the transformation scenes here are just fucking terrifying. Terrifying. Like, it's not just shocking, it's fucking terrifying. Now, it's interesting because Dante eventually also got to work with Steven Spielberg on Gremlins. And there's a moment in Gremlins where on the refrigerator is a smiley face. Now, apparently that's a reference to the character Eddie in The Howling, which I never caught. So again, I'm going to go back and check that shit out. Recently, Kevin Lambert, again, my boy from the UK, who does Cinematic Synergy with me, and I do a bunch of like collabs with him on his channel. He enlightened me about some in Star Wars I had known about E.T. and whatnot. So going back and researching this, I didn't even realize there was a connection between Gremlins and, of course, The Howling. I love shit like that. So have to go back and check that out. Now, I think his name was Christopher Stone, was playing the husband for Dee Wallace's character. They were actually engaged during the filming of this film. I don't think they ever lasted as a couple or marriage, but that is something interesting about them as a acting pair. There's a lot of cast and crew who worked on The Howling that also worked on the 1978 original Piranha. That's some interesting stuff there. I thought another thing that I didn't catch, which I'll have to go back and maybe no one else knew either, is there's a cameo by Roger Corman in the film, and it's at the beginning in the peep show cabin or porn booth or whatever, but apparently Corman is in the phone booth somewhere in that early part of the film, and he has a cameo there. So I thought that was kind of funny. During this time in the 80s, I've talked about this before somewhere else. If you know who Siskel and Ebert are, they're like professional movie critics that have been around forever. Of course, I think Roger or Siskel, one of them died. It might have been Siskel. I don't remember. My apologies if I can't remember which one went away, but I've always found that Roger was always kind of like the dimwit of the two of them, because Siskel was always open to give movies a try, even if he didn't really care for them all that much. He was always more open about it. Ebert just, if it was, he was so pretentious about everything. If it didn't match what he wanted, like, this is the same guy that hated Carpenter's Thing, right? Hated it. I don't know. It's no shock that out of this, Siskel thought Howling was pretty good. Ebert thought it sucked, and it's not a shocker to me there, but I thought that was something I have to point out because Ebert has some bad taste sometimes. The only other bit of information I thought was kind of interesting, I don't know if it would have changed so much. I think it would have changed for me just because the actress that plays Marsha Quist, Eddie's sister, I think, or maybe partner, I can't remember. She's the one we see at the end, and she's kind of like the survivor of the pack. Initially, the role was offered to a porn legend, Annette Haven, at the time, but apparently Annette turned it down because she felt the script was too violent. And I thought that's kind of weird, a porn actress saying, well, it's too violent, it can't be in that. But I don't mind fucking on screen. Consequences, right? But she was a very sharp looking chick. She was back then. And of course, I thought the girl that ended up doing it did a good job. I just kind of muggly in some ways. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. But either way, I do remember this though, about the girl that played. I think that's, no, I don't have her name with me, but she didn't really want to get nude in the film. And so, but I think Dante had told her, like, well, you're going to be nude. Like, she didn't have a problem getting nude in front of the camera crew, but she didn't want to be nude in the scene, like to be seen by a bunch of people, like viewers. And Dante was telling her, well, it's going to be dark and we're going to have this big bonfire, so we're really not going to see you much. So she kind of went in thinking, okay, but then when it turns out, like, you really do see her. full frontal and everything. So she never did another nude scene, whether by choice or just that either rubbed her the wrong way or whatever. But I don't think she sued or anything about it. I just think she was very unhappy about it. But again, we kind of see the change with how we have like counselors on sets now to deal with sex scenes and stuff like this, so that women are more protected in this way, that they're not being duped into something like that to where they didn't want that. And I can say, like, it doesn't bother me as a viewer because I grew up in the 70s, 80s where nudity was just a thing. Like, it never bothered you really that much. Like, you just kind of got used to it as a viewer. But obviously the girls and the actresses back then, they had to kind of fight through a lot of sexist bullshit sometimes. Unlike now where they can hire people to say, hey, I don't want this. And then they can renegotiate whatever the terms are, etc. Yeah. So like I said, man, this film, fucking amazing, very horrific, scary as fuck. Still very terrifying to me. Even some of the like scenes where it's kind of like daylight, because these wolves can change at will, and which I've always liked. I like that about the Lycans too in the Underworld series. So let's check out the trailer. Yeah, get to see a trailer. Let's check out the trailer.
A mysterious stranger
died in an attempted assault of KDHB anchorwoman Karen White.
There's this blood on me, and I can't imagine who it might have come from.
I'm going to recommend that you go out to the colony for a week or two.
I was here this morning.
God, look at the door. Bill just got bitten by a wolf.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
The classic werewolf can change shape anytime it wants, day and night, whenever it takes a notion.
What about killing it with silver bullets?
Well, sure. Silver bullets are fire. It's the only way to get rid of the damn things.
I was looking for my wife.
Why?
Yeah, The Howling, my number one greatest werewolf film of all time, has never been redone. Nothing like that. I know they talked about doing like a reboot or a series on it. Don't know if that's still in the works or not. Unless you can get the guys that did the special effects in this to do that series or movie, don't even do it. Don't waste your time. You're going to fucking fail. Trust me. Any real werewolf fan will tell you the same. I'm sorry. Don't attempt it if you can't duplicate it in some way. Like, you don't have to do the same story, but special effects, the practical effects, they matter. It just does. You can kind of get away with shit like Underworld and stuff like that. I get it. Things are happening pretty fast, but when you're doing true terror and stuff like that, it's always practical effects that wins. We talk about this all the time with like The Thing or even The Fly, stuff like that. Like, it has to be there, man. Like, it just the CGI is great for some things and terrible for others, and we run into that problem as fans. We discuss this shit between our group, the Sci-Fi Society, and all of us with everything. It's always something that we talk about, how it works for some things and not others. Stuff like this, you can't cheap your way out. You just can't. And then if you are, because I know like Marshall said one thing about Dog Soldiers was he couldn't do the things that he wanted to do like American Werewolf or Howling. So what he did was play tricks. So if a guy was going to change, he would fall behind the table and then pop up and he's a werewolf. So that works because you can get away with that. Like, you can see some of the first effects, the eyes changing, the nails, And then without going full blown like you would in American Wolf or The Howling, he can fall to the floor, pop up, and hey, I'm a werewolf. And nobody is the wiser. Like we go with it because the suits are great. Everything looks amazing. The animatronics are great. So yeah, just werewolf films, man. I am very picky. People know me. I don't have much room for grace there. It's my one hang up, I guess, if you want to say it's that, but I have my limits to what I deal with werewolf films. Vampires, you can get away with just about anything, but werewolves, nope. Wolfman's easy. You can do Wolfman. Wolfman's easy. Just tack on some fucking fur, maybe take some pubes, shave it off yourself, put it on your face. Yeah, you can get a Wolfman any day. Werewolf takes more thought. Guess it does. All right, everybody. That's my list. Got any comments? Got your own top 10? Let me know. Tell me what you thought. What'd you think about some of the tidbits I found of information? Dude, Jason Statham could have played Cooper. That's fucking amazing. All right. I am out of here. Thank you much. See you next time.